authors, George Bernard Shaw, said that the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. The illusion of communication is something that I struggle with constantly. I don't want to sound fake or ungracious here or appear to be whining over trivial issues like, oh my God, why am I not being heard? But it's actually true. There is a gap. I have the illusion that I have communicated, but the person opposite me has just not heard. Today, I want to talk about this issue in communication because I believe that understanding this will be beneficial to all of us. Based on years of experience, 15 to be exact, I can now tell you that at the center of this entire issue is something that I like to call the "I knew this would happen" syndrome. I have not come across any scientific research on this, but I'm convinced that this phenomenon is not unique only to me. And this is what I want to discuss today. So, first, I want to point out, this is very different from the "I told you so" syndrome, because in that, there is actual telling. A clear communication is made and has been ignored. In the "I knew this would happen" syndrome, the communication itself is circumspect, an illusion. There is, of course, a whole lot of superiority and disappointment. Secondly, it may be perpetuating stereotypes, but I believe that the women in the audience will identify easier with this syndrome because we've all experienced some example of "I knew this would happen" every time that we've written a grocery list or actually any kind of shopping list for the men in our lives. Last night, I shared an example of a meme that went viral, something which looked like this, right? It looks detailed, it's got bullet points, there are diagrams. Now, some of you may say this level of detailing is uncalled for, spoon-feeding, maybe even condescending, but I'm sure many more of you are inspired. I certainly am. This is clearly my kind of communication because this kind of communication requires strong logic and reasoning, a certain predictive ability, especially about things that can go wrong, and also a somewhat anal my way or the highway requirement on how you want things to be done. Unfortunately, since this communication focuses all of my energies on the things that need to be done to prevent mistakes, it sort of creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, the communication doesn't end with the sharing of these detailed instructions. The conversation keeps playing on in my head. I create several more scenarios. I bet this will happen. And that will be the suboptimum response until I have built myself up for certain disappointment. Seriously, now on the first day of every vacation, when my husband Vikash realizes what he has forgotten to pack, I actually breathe a sigh of relief because now I can stop worrying about that. On the day of any important event, when he figures out what he forgot to book or buy, I serenely start the firefighting, almost content in the knowledge that what I feared and obsessed over has come to pass. Vikash stands there feeling betrayed. If I knew this would happen, why didn't I specifically warn him? But I'm sure I did. I warned him about most of the scenarios in my head, right? And really, if I can foresee this, why can't he? Unfair? Probably. But what can I do to change this? They say that awareness is the first step to resolving an issue. Unfortunately, I've been stuck on this first step for the past decade. And my husband has borne the brunt of most of this. I knew this would happen disappointment. It happens with my parents and my child too, but usually I'm more indulgent because of their ages. So what can I do to break this chakravyuh, which seems to have no beginning, this maze which has no end? I could try to not be particular about the way things are done, but in most cases, that just feels like dropping standards. I could try to do more and more on my own, but that kind of independence does not foster togetherness. The only solution to this illusion of communication seems to be more or better communication, which is just some sort of vicious circle. Abhimanyu took 16 years to break this chakravyuh with knowledge that he had learnt in his mother's womb. 16 years from knowledge to successful application, which gives me about a year to persevere and solve this. Do any of you have any tips? Help. Thank you.